Guys, welcome back. It's Josh, the Financial Advisor Car Guy, and this week we're going to talk about the Audi R8 and its new suspension. So I'll just dive right in. As you guys probably know, and if you don't, here we go. The suspension on this car, the MagRide suspension, has been leaking literally as long as I've owned the car. I've had the car 5 years now, and realistically, these shocks should have been replaced 4 or 5 years ago. I bought new MagRide shocks for the car 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago, and they've been sitting in a box here in my garage. And I've talked to a couple of local shops and gotten kind of, I don't want to say mixed information, but some shops won't install customer provided parts. And so that's kind of been my issue. And then secondly, it's just really, really expensive. I was getting quotes all over the board. I want to say that actually Audi had quoted $6,000 for parts and labor. I was able to provide the parts and purchase the parts for $1,000 and had been kind of casually shopping around looking for who could do the work at a fairly reasonable rate. And as it turns out, my friend Joe works for a mechanic here in town, and he quoted me $450. So basically for under $1,500, I was able to get all new suspension on this car, all new shocks. So here we are. So the car rides beautifully now. It is so much more comfortable, so much better. Now I'm wondering why I waited so long. So I guess that's the moral of the story, is if you guys have a similar situation, whether it's an R8 or not, if you need new shocks, just go do it. You're gonna wonder why you didn't. And it just rides so much quieter and smoother, and I can turn full, I can turn my steering wheel full chalk, left and right, and no rubbing, no issues. Whereas before, the car sat real low because the MagRide had leaked everywhere. And while I never saw puddles underneath the car, the shocks were, essentially shot completely. And, now the car sits a little bit higher. It's probably, I want to say about an inch higher all the way around, which is good and bad. I really liked how it looked squatty that way it was before, but I would trade that away for this any day. The more comfortable ride is game changing. So we're gonna walk around to the front of the car where I've got my old shocks. So I'm gonna just kind of do this here. But basically, we've got fronts, backs, and the existing setup, 2 more in the box here. It was obviously a set of 4, and like I suggested, I paid $1,000 for the whole set, which was a screaming deal 3 years ago. They are OEM parts. They are Audi part numbered, the whole 9 yards, or the new ones. And again, they're like thousands of dollars from the dealer. What's crazy about these ones, and I think what wore them out so quickly, is the fact that they actually have H&R lowering springs on them. So the H&R, you can see the part number on there. The part number is 29058-1. Googling that, they're about $300 for the set. And H&R tells me that it lowers the car approximately 0.6 inches in the front and 1.1 inches in the back. So it definitely gets the whole car down a little bit. Now this car sat even lower than that, again, because of the worn out MagRide. But I do think that having the lowering springs on the car definitely expedited the exit of those existing springs, or shocks. So anyway, again, having brand new shocks on this car, it rides absolutely beautiful. And there's really nothing more to it. That's my week. That's my story this week is, basically under $1,500, but it drives like a brand new car again. Absolutely ridiculous. I love it. And on the upside, those shocks and springs, again, the springs are about $300. Is that what I said? $300 from H&R. Even used, they're going for a couple $100s. And these are rebuildable. So there are companies out there, people sell their core, so to speak, back to these companies who will rebuild them and then resell them at a fraction of the cost of OEM, from the dealer. And so there's a couple of companies. I saw 2 online, 3, I guess, but 2 would be ones I'd consider. One will buy them for $400 and they provide a shipping label. Another one I believe was $500, but you cover the shipping. And then the third one was like I think it was $250 and they cover the shipping. So that's 3 options. You know, I could just send these off and make a little bit of money. Part of me is kind of like, man, maybe I'd take them apart and pull the springs off, sell the springs, and then I don't know if the core companies will buy them without springs on them, but I also think maybe if I include the H&R springs, maybe I get a little bit bigger credit back or a bonus back, or I don't know. So I'm going to investigate that, but for now, I've got them sitting in the boxes, and the new ones are on the car, and life is good. So that is all I got for you guys this week. Short episode, short update. You know, there's not really anything to show you guys. Like I said, I just wanted to show you the old stuff. And you can't really tell, but I mean, they're dirty, but you can't really tell, you know, the leaking and the leakage and the seepage and all the things that come off these shocks. You just can't really, they just look dirty from road grime and stuff. So that's that. Yeah, but those H&R springs, that was kind of an interesting surprise. I didn't realize that that was the case when I bought the car. I kind of feel like when I bought the car, they did tell me it had been lowered. But then the more I investigated it, and I learned that those MagRides were essentially shot, I just kind of assumed that maybe the dealership made the assumption the car was lowered because of its lowered stance, because of the leaking MagRide. That's all. You know, I guess I could have investigated it more. Through the wheel well, I couldn't see the H&R branding. So the springs may have been, you know, rotated so that the labels were on the inside or whatever. Or dirty, right? Again, road grime and stuff getting up on the springs. May not have been able to tell, but here we are, and you know, not mad about it. The car doesn't sit too high. I jokingly told Joe, you know, we effectively gave the car a lift. If I come down to wheel level here, I mean, we have a nice even wheel gap all the way around, whereas before, you know, the fender was down. It was about 1 inch, maybe even more, maybe a little more. And so it definitely had a different appeal, a different look. And now that everything is new and nice and tight and ready to go, yeah, I mean, I'm, like I said, really happy with it. And I like the symmetry, you know, having that perfect arch right around the wheel, you know, it looks really, really good. It doesn't look like the car is super high or anything. Let's spin this thing around and come to the back end. Same deal, right? So it's visually beautiful. You know, you can come to this car, similar deal. You know, this wheel arch is a little bit different because the angle isn't perfectly round. Like there's more room here than there is here, but that's not because the wheel, that's, you know, that's because the arch is just a little more squatty over the top of the tire. It's just not perfectly round. Like this is exactly the shape of the tire. This is not. So anyway, I digress. That's enough of that. But car is done, back in business, super stoked for that. It makes me want to drive it, which is encouraging. The weather's been holding out, so I have been driving it. I had them do that work. It'll be more than a week by the time you guys see this, but in real time, they did this maybe 5 days ago, and I drove it to work 2 days, and then there was a weekend. So yeah, I mean, I've already driven it a couple times in the matter of a week, whereas this time of year especially, I'm not driving it, and I had been driving it maybe once a week at best after it sat for several weeks. So yeah, with spring almost here and the weather being nice, I will be driving it, and now I don't have to fear, you know, driving in and out of alleys and driveways and parking lots and all the things. You know, I've got a lot more clearance with that extra little bit of room. I won't be scraping on things like I maybe had in the past. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. You know, if you have an opportunity, would you wait or would you jump in and get those shocks put on? I mean, again, why wait? Doesn't make a lot of sense. So anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that notification bell. Most importantly, remember, may every investment you make be a good one. Till next time.